Now, in an open letter to the fans who've been calling for sack the board, Everton owner Farhad Moshiri has reaffirmed his commitment to the ownership of the club, as well as delivering a vote of confidence in the manager, Frank Lampard. But what we know is this. A whole number of Everton fan groups are planning a sit-in protest with banners at Goodison after the club's game against Southampton on Saturday, protesting at the way Moshiri has run the club thus far. So, the open letter, the fans saw it last night. Simon, we'll get your reaction to that and to what Farhad told me a short time ago. Because a short time ago, just before we came on air, I caught up with Farhad Moshiri and asked him straight, do you think Everton fans still have faith in you and your decisions?
Well, I hope so. I've put my money where my mouth is, and, that is most that an owner can do. And I've done that. And some of the decision we've taken is together with the fans, right? All the managers who've been driven by the fans, not by me initially. And I think you've got to stay with the manager to get the systems going, the players that he buys. I have a lot of faith in Frank. He'll get it right.
So what do you say to those who are planning to protest this weekend?
Well, I think protest is a democratic right of everyone, right? So I think their feeling is well known. We are communicating. But I would say the biggest thing is to support the team. So we need to give it, and they'll give it back to us.
And Farhad, finally, do you still have faith in your board? Many Everton fans have been asking for you to dismiss them, to sack them.
Look, I think they've been there for a long time. Some are new appointments, but they're long-standing, they're dedicated, they're local, and it's so important to keep a club in Liverpool, with roots in Liverpool. And those are the roots of the club. They love the club. They've been attending games under every condition, and it's just building a £760 million stadium, one of the best in the country, is an enormous challenge for a club. So I think they need to acknowledge that they're going through a transformation, and they are working extremely hard. And I've added to the board every now and again to support, and when needed, we do it again. But you can't just take rash decisions. We have two big games, Saturday and on the 21st. That's the only focus.
That's the only focus. That was Farhad Moshiri speaking to me a short time ago. So, Simon, as I said, going into that, the fan groups are planning a sit-in protest. Yep. They will nonetheless be protesting at the game at the weekend. Moshiri backs Lampard. Moshiri says their right to protest is a democratic one, and they've got every right to do it, should they wish to do that. He would prefer them to back the team. And he says, this board, well, I've tried to add to the board as often as I could. He said they're dedicated, they're local, they're in Liverpool.
Yep.
And that's a way ahead. What's your take on it?
Well, I listen to both. I have a natural empathy with owners because I've been in that situation and I know what a difficult job it can be. And he's absolutely right. There's no doubt that he's put his money where his mouth is. But that's kind of irrelevant if a club of Everton size is sitting in the bottom three of the Premier League, narrowly avoided getting relegated last year, and probably has been an unprecedented Horlicks for the last 5 years under his ownership. Now, it's easy to say, it's easy to take a swing at people, and I also don't think it's particularly constructive that the fans talk about sack the board. Let's get something straight. The board of a football club are really just an incarnation of the owner. The owner has the ultimate authority. He's the money. It's a difficult job being a chief executive of a football club or a board member because you have all the authority, but you're divested from the power because the money has the power, and he is the money. So when you say sack the board, you mean sack Moshiri, because Moshiri is the guy that appoints the board. Moshiri is the guy that takes the recommendations. Moshiri is the guy that's the absentee landlord that isn't going to games, that isn't front and centre, that's reacting to letters from fans rather than being on the front foot and communicating in a slightly better way. Now, whatever you say when your team is stinking the division out and you're a side of Everton's stature and previous calibre, you ain't going to get a particularly accommodating audience because your team on the pitch is not reflective of what the fans want to see.
Oh, he knows he's up against it.
And they can take it out on Bill Kenwright, but Bill Kenwright does not have the controlling influence over the football club. Farhad Moshiri does. And if Bill Kenwright isn't doing things in the best interest of the football club, that's for Farhad Moshiri to be able to correct. And if they want to make targets at Denise and other people, and it's undoubtable that the performance of the football club stems from the controls of those at the top. Team reflects leader. Who's the leader? Moshiri. Moshiri hasn't done... when you look at these appointments, it's playground stuff. Who in their right mind... Anybody with any common sense about football would have suggested that Rafael Benitez was the right fix for the particular malaise that Everton had, which was an underperforming side, a slightly disenfranchised fan base because they were seeing football that they didn't enjoy. And so what you do is you bring in someone like Benitez, who's a divisive character at best and have clearly positioned in the Liverpool camp and have attributed certain derogatory comments about Everton to himself in the past. So I look at Moshiri, and whilst in economic terms, he dwarfs any financial achievements I've had in my life. But that doesn't make him a good football operator. Of course, my end tenure at Palace was I ran out of money. But on the whole, the majority of decisions I made at Palace weren't greeted with the disdain and contempt that he seems to have earned for himself. It is preposterous that he's allowed the football club to overspend by £350 million, price it back in with adjustments to just get under financial fair play. So under his financial governance, because it's his money, he's allowed a football club to be absolutely hamstrung by the fact that they really can't flex and bend and buy players anymore because they're under special measures from the Premier League.
As a former owner yourself, do you have any sympathy with Farhad Moshiri?
Well, of course I do, because the argument being advanced is that the best owners are ones that put their hands in their pocket, and no one can doubt the fact he put his money where his mouth is. But that's great. But you've spent £500 million of your money to waste everybody's time, including yours, and to degrade the football club that you're in. Now, we can all turn around and say, I put my best foot forward, I put up a good fight. Well, a good fight isn't one you turn up to. A good fight is one you win. And Everton are fourth or third from bottom in the Premier League. They've got a substandard playing squad. I don't think they've got the most progressive forward-thinking board, and I don't think they've got a coach capable of taking Everton anywhere near in the mind's eye of the Everton fans they'd like to be.
He backs Lampard, though. Is that the right thing to publicly back him this morning?
What else can he do? What else can he do? He appointed him. He backed Benitez until, the vision arrived that actually this was a totally untenable position. The team stunk. The fans' reaction with the manager was absolutely dreadful. And so here we are now. No, we must not always...
I was just going to say, it's a crunch game this weekend, though, Simon, and he's chosen before the crunch game to back him.
Well, of course, because if they get beat by Southampton, who are in the same position as they're in, that there's going to be an even louder outcry. We must be careful not to conflate the vociferous minority with the overall feeling. But I have to say, I've got friends that are Everton fans, influential, significant people that aren't just rabble-rousers that get the cross at the slightest sign of adversity. And these guys are looking at it going, the hell is going on with this football club? And, I'm not looking to single Frank out or anybody of that nature, or just to lay on and make observations that are very easy to make when you're sitting in the cheap seats. But come on now, this isn't good enough. It's not good enough for Everton Football Club. And Moshiri writing open letters to fans is not my version of leadership. Leadership means you're at the front of the queue, you're accountable for the decisions you make, you give people clear visions. More of the same. I want Everton to be a better football club. Well, we hardly think you want it to be a bleeding worse one, do we?
No, but he's communicating.
Well, he's communicating in a way that's sort of hands-off communication. It's basically responding to the fact he's been put in a position where he can't potentially ignore the background noise. He needs to try and quell the rumblings. And quelling the rumblings by effectively saying more of the same. But also, it isn't also just an ideal to be reactive to what other people think you should do. I believe that if people want to focus their ire at anybody, and it's not constructive, I guess, but if they're going to do it, they can't be shouting, sack the board. The guy that is ultimately I've owned a football club. I was the money. I know who made the decisions. Me. I listened to people that worked for me, and I did what I wanted to do. And so does he. So when you say sack the ball, what's that going to achieve? If the same fella's at the top, he'll make the same decisions he's made before and just replace like for like, because that's what you do.
Okay.
So the ire, unfortunately for Farhad, needs to be directed at him. And sacking the ball and getting rid of Denise and calling Bill whatever else you want to call him, because he apparently won't sell his shares and blocks this, that and the other, Moshiri's the culprit in this.
Everton against Southampton, Saturday at 3 o'clock, is live and exclusive on talkSPORT 2. Moshiri's open letter last night finished with: the focus of myself, the club and the fans is aligned. A better Everton. And I'm confident that we can move forward in a constructive and positive manner. And he echoed that by agreeing to join us, and you heard it this morning on talkSPORT. But are Evertonians still prepared to listen? 03717 223344 81089.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.